Good evening and welcome to the November 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Platting Board. May I have roll call, please?
Don Porter.
Present.
Jana Weltzine.
Present.
Karen McGillivray.
Present.
Ryan Morman.
Present.
Zach Young.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approvals. We have no action summaries. We do have minutes. May we have a motion for Wednesday, October 5th, 2022? May we have a motion to approve the minutes of October 5th, 2022? We have a motion moved by Brian Morman and seconded by Ms. Karen McGillivray. Are there any corrections to be made to the minutes? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Special order of business. Do we have any disclosures?
I was absent of the October 5th meeting, but I have since listened to the audio and video recording and am able to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Any other disclosures? All right, we'll move on to informational items. We have the abbreviated plat action summaries for 9/26, 10/10, and 10/24 of 2022. I will just note for the record that the abbreviated plat action summaries of September 6th, October 10th, and October 24th. So the next item of agenda is election of a vice chair. May we have a motion to nominate a member to serve as vice chair? And we need a vice chair.
Hello?
I'm nominating you.
Tom, you there?
Yes, I am.
All righty, thank you.
I'll note
I'm
for
really
the-
sorry about this.
I will note for the record that Thomas Gould has dialed in on the bridge line.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a vice chair nomination by Ms. Jana Wilson.
I'll nominate Ryan Morman.
And that it was seconded by Mr. Zach Young. Do we have any other nominations? All right, so are there any objections to Mr. Ryan Morman being the vice chair? I guess we vote.
You can vote for yourself on it. Well, you can vote.
You can vote either way.
There you go. You don't have to abstain from voting.
And you'll need
Hello.
to ask for Thomas Gould's vote.
Thomas, how do you vote?
Yes. I vote yea. Yes.
Thank you.
The vote was unanimous that Ryan Morman be vice chair. Congratulations. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. And do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? It has been moved by Ms. Jana Wilson and seconded by Mr. Zach Young. Does anyone wish to pull the resolution from the consent agenda for discussion? Otherwise, we will just vote on it.
Ask Thomas if he has any questions. You may want to ask Tom if he has
Oh.
any questions.
Tom, do you have any questions on this process?
No, I've seen the film of the last meeting, and I'm okay to vote on this.
Okay. So the resolution is 2022-04, related case S12681, easement vacation of a 50-foot creek maintenance easement. Okay, so hearing none, are there any objections to approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved.
Tom, do you object or approve?
I approve.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to new business, in which case we will start the hearing process. We will be opening the public meeting, and I will read the process into the agenda. The Platting Board meets each month on the first and third Wednesday, except holidays, as regular meetings. If the Platting Board fails to complete its agenda for its regular meetings, the board carries over to the remainder of the agenda on the following meeting. The procedure by which the public may speak to the Platting Board at the meeting is: 1, after the staff presentation is completed on the public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. 2, persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission's Rules of Procedures. Petitioners, including all of his or her representatives, will have 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved for rebuttal. Representatives of groups, such as community councils, PTAs, etc., they will have 5 minutes. Individuals will have 3 minutes. 3, when your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. 4, any individual may have appeal rights relating to the action of the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions of government by AMCR 2111-304, the decision of the board at the scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice to appeal. Item 5, adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either A, a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMCR 2111-503, or B, an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 2103. With that, we are opening the public hearing. So, with new business, we'll be hearing case S12694. Will staff please present the case?
Thank you, Chair. This is a request to subdivide 4 lots into 3 lots with a vacation of 5 easements as follows. A 15-foot roadway easement on Lot 2, McLaren subdivision, 10-foot utility easement on the south boundary of McLaren subdivision, a 5-foot telephone and electric easement on the north boundary of Andres subdivision, 10-foot buffer landscape easement on Lot 1, and a 10-foot by 50-foot no-build and access easement on Lot 1 of Andres subdivision. Utility easements have been requested, and advisory comments can be found in attachment 3, starting on page 22 of this report. The petition site is located south of East 14th Avenue, east of Muldoon Road, and east and north of East 16th Avenue. Proposed Lot 1 is currently vacant, and proposed Lots 2 and 3 are used as an auto shop. The petition site is surrounded by B3SL, General Business District with special limitations to the north, south, and west, with a variety of commercial uses, and R2M mixed residential to the east. The proposed lot configuration will not result in any split zone lots. There were no objections by municipal reviewing agencies to the preliminary plat or vacations with the conditions listed in the department recommendation. The vacation requests have been reviewed and found to conform with municipal vacation policy per AMC Title 21-03-230. The proposed subdivision from 4 lots into 3 lots eliminates the need for the existing roadway easement and the no build and access easement, as all lots have access to dedicated rights-of-ways. Access to East 14th Street will not be granted until it is upgraded to municipal standard. Therefore, staff has requested condition of approval from the applicant to obtain an access agreement between lots 2 and 3 to provide physical access to the eastern portion of proposed Lot 2. Per Plat 2009-85, a 10-foot buffer landscaping easement was placed across the eastern section of the property boundary as it was split zoned B3SL and R2M. The property owner has since rezoned the property to B3SL per AO 2018-097, which results in the buffer landscaping easement no longer being required. Utility companies have expressed no objection to the requested vacation of easements. The utility companies will have opportunity to review the proposed final plat and request easements as necessary. Therefore, staff believes the easements are in excess of municipal need and recommends approval of the vacation subject to condition A1 and approval of the plat for 24 months subject to conditions B1A through C, and then a revision to conditions 2 and 3 to add, quote, resolve with private development and traffic the need to dedicate, found on page 6 of this report. Thank you, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions of the staff? All right. Hearing none, will the petitioner please come forward, state, and spell your name for the record? You will have 10 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Lang, Jonathan I'm with Lang & Associates Professional Land Surveyors, and I'm the petitioner's representative, Mr. Balthazar Arias. Thank you to staff for your presentation. I agree with the majority of the recommendations, but disagree with items B2 and B3. The municipality's request of an additional 5 foot of right-of-way dedication is unnecessary. The 1974 plat of McLaren subdivision dedicated the south 25 feet of the East 14th Avenue right-of-way, but the road was not constructed at that time. The 2014 plat of Muldoon Estates subdivision dedicated the north 30 feet of the East 14th Avenue right-of-way and also did not construct the road. The road dedication was necessary to access the rear lot, and by this subdivision we're eliminating that rear lot, so there's no longer a need for the actual roadway. East 14th Avenue is classified as a local street. The official Streets and Highways Plan right-of-way standard calls for local streets to be 50 to 60 feet wide. At 55 feet, East 14th Avenue meets the standard. To summarize, not only does the current 55-foot dedication meet the standard in the official Streets and Highways Plan, but in the 48 years that have passed since McLaren subdivision was created, there has not been a need to construct East 14th Avenue. I ask the board to approve the plat with the proposed vacations and that you remove conditions B2 and B3 because they are not necessary. I'd like to reserve the remainder of my time for rebuttal, and I thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. You have 7 minutes and, 8 minutes. 8 minutes and 14 seconds left. Do we have any questions from the board, I believe? Yes, does the board have any questions of the petitioner? We recognize Jana Wilson.
Sorry, I don't have the buttons popping up for me. Probably user error. Okay, so for B2, are you saying there's already an existing 55-foot easement and they're asking for an additional 5-foot? Is that,
So currently, there's 55 feet of right-of-way that's been dedicated.
Okay.
And by this action, staff is asking for an additional 5-foot dedication.
okay, so we're making it 60 feet altogether?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to get that clarification. And then I'll hold I have a couple questions for staff, but I'll hold those until folks have a chance to ask Mr. Lang.
Do we have any other questions for the petitioner? Mr. Gould, do you have any questions for the petitioner?
I have no questions.
Thank you. You actually have a question for staff at this point?
I do. Number 3, I don't see, it says dedicate additional right-of-way, but it doesn't say how much the staff wants.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe Mr. Lang has the exact measurement, but traffic was unclear of how much would be required to provide the cul-de-sac at municipal standard, which is why there's no defined number. And to provide further clarification of the modification that Chair Porter has to change B2 and 3 to resolve with the traffic and private development departments so that they have the flexibility if it's determined that 5 feet is not required. Although they made that comment to dedicate the 5 feet, they have the flexibility to resolve the comment rather than dedicate automatically.
Okay, so to the petitioner, is that a workable solution for you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And to answer your question about the cul-de-sac, the dedication to the north was about 1.5 feet short.
Okay,
And with the 5-foot dedication they're asking for, it would cover that, so it would render that unnecessary.
okay, okay, so I think resolve is appropriate then. Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Do we have any more questions? Mr. Gould?
I have no other questions.
Thank you. So the hearing is now open to public testimony. Would anybody wish to come forward and testify? We have no call-ins? Very well then. With that, public testimony is closed. Do you wish to come back and with a rebuttal, if any, and use your remaining time? Okay, the petitioner has said no. All right. Then the public hearing is now closed. We will need 2 motions, one for the vacation of the 5 easements and one for the plat for 24 months. Those should be resolved. Give us one moment, I think we're going to... Okay. All right, it has been moved by Jana Wilson and seconded by Zach Young. Ms. Wilson, would you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, I intend to support this motion. I'm going to motion to approve the 5 easements as followed. Number 1, the 15-foot roadway easement shown on Lot 2, McCarran subdivision. Number 2, 10-foot utility easement on the south boundary line of the McCarran subdivision. Number 3, the 5-foot T&E easement on the north boundary line of the Andreas subdivision. Number 4, the 10-foot buffer landscape easement dedicated on Lot 1 of the Andreas subdivision. And number 5, the 10-foot times 50-foot no-build and access easement on Lot 1 of the Andreas subdivision. I'm going to support this as it seems it's appropriate. The Community Council did a resolution to support this request, and I did not see any comments from reviewing agencies that would cause me to think that this wasn't appropriate for the property at issue.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Young, would you like also to speak to the motion?
As
To the
stated by
second? Sorry.
As stated by Jana, I believe that all of the needs have been met in addition to adding the 5-foot easement to, allow for adequate space. So I will be supporting this motion.
Excellent, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the motion or add findings? Excellent. None. So if there is no further discussion, we will restate the motion on the floor and ask for a vote. So we have a motion on the floor to approve 5 easements as follows. 1, a 15-foot wide roadway easement as shown on Lot 2, McLaren subdivision. A 10-foot utility easement as shown on the southern boundary line of McLaren subdivision. A 5-foot T&E easement on the north boundary line of Andres subdivision. A 10-foot buffer landscaping easement dedicated to Lot 1, Andres subdivision, and the 5th is a 10-foot by 50-foot no build and access easement on Lot 1, Andres subdivision. That is the motion on the floor. The vacation, sorry. So, and with that, we will vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I support the motion.
Vacation of 5 different easements on the subdivision plat?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that has passed. May we have a second motion? For the approval of the plat for 24 months? Excellent. It has been moved by Mr. Zach Young and seconded by Ms. Karen McGillivray. Would you care to state your motion?
I move to approve the subdivision of 4 lots into 3 lots. I will be supporting this motion because they have met all the standards required by the municipality and the vacation of said easements and additional easements to be added. Thank you.
Ms. McGillivray, would you like to speak to your motion, your second?
Yeah, I would like to support my motion, but with edits to the notes on the plat in respect to B2.
So to do that, we would have to make a motion to amend.
Oh, motion to amend. Okay, sorry.
So we'll start there. Go ahead and make your motion to amend.
I would like to motion to amend.
And would you state your amendment?
Yes, I would like to amend the following notes on the plat for B2. Change dedicate to resolve. And B3. Change dedicate to resolve. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
I think that's good enough.
Okay.
So we will vote on, I think we have to take a vote to, yeah, it's B2 and 3, change to resolve. And so if everybody accepts that, Zach, do you, sorry. Great.
Hello?
We have our motion to amend and we can vote, right? Oh, Mr. Gould, we're changing items 2 and 3 to be resolve. rather than dedicate.
All right, I've heard that, okay.
And that'll, yes. Okay, so then we could get a vote on that.
Go ahead.
Well, through the chair, sorry, before we go to a vote on that, I would just like to clarify on the record that the intent is that to resolve with traffic. And then I also would just like to make a few findings that all the agencies were in support of this. We did not get any negative testimony from the community, and the community council did do a resolution in support of this action. So I just wanted to put that on the record before we vote.
Excellent. Well done. All right, so we're voting on changing the wording to resolve.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Excellent, that has passed, so now we can move on to, I believe we can vote on the actual amendment, the actual motion. We'll get there. So the motion has been moved by Zach Young and seconded by Karen McGillivray, and the motion is to approve 4 lots into 3 with the stipulations that have been stated on the record. How about that? Please vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
Thank you.
That has passed. Thank you all. All right, Mr. Lang, congratulations. All right. Give me just one. So, we will move on to the next case, which is case S12696, request to subdivide 1 tract of land into 6 lots and 1 new tract, and request for a subdivision variance seeking relief from AMC 21.08.030F.6.A, cul-de-sac length. Okay, excuse me. Will staff please present the case?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, this is case 12696, and as you mentioned, it is subdivision of 1 tract into 6 lots and 1 tract with the variance. The request is being made to develop the property for future single-family residential dwellings. So this proposed subdivision is located just south of Jamie Avenue, east of Mountaineer Drive, and west of Carl Street in Anchorage. The property is zoned R10 SL per AO 8421, and those special limitations required a minimum lot size of 1 1/4 acres. Each proposed lot meets the minimum lot size and site requirements for slopes for the R10 SL zoning district. For road improvements and dedication, the official streets and highways plan identifies East Jamie Avenue as a neighborhood collector 1B. That's a minimum right-of-way width of 70 feet. Jamie Avenue is not currently constructed internal and peripheral to the proposed subdivision, and staff is requesting a condition of plat approval requiring the petitioner to dedicate 35 feet of right-of-way along the northern boundary of proposed Lot 6 and Tract 1 for Jamie Avenue, and to construct that Jamie Avenue from the intersection of Carl Street to 70 feet beyond to the northeast corner of Lot 6. And that's to accommodate emergency access turnaround. So that'll be improved to a rural collector standard of 24 feet. That's 24-foot wide, strip paved, and include a separate soft surface trail for non-motorized use. This will comply with the Hillside District Plan and the Anchorage Area-Wide Trails Plan for a trail connection. Jamie Avenue is identified, like I said, as a neighborhood collector. Therefore, it's subject to improvements of street lighting, and staff has requested a condition to provide just intersection lighting there at the corner of Jamie Avenue and the unnamed street. For the unnamed cul-de-sac, the petitioner shall dedicate 60 feet of right-of-way for that internal street, and we're looking for a 50-foot radius public use easement for the turnaround and to construct that internal to the subdivision. For the trails, as I mentioned, taking into consideration private development's comments, planning has placed that condition of approval to construct the separate soft surface trail along the required section of improvements, and to resolve the alignment and width with the non-motorized transportation coordinator in private development. Conformance with adopted plans, the staff has found that preliminary plat appears to generally conform with the petition's site classification as well as policies in the 2040 Anchorage Land Use Plan. Those are policy 4.1. So this subdivision is located within the rural area of the municipality, and this will provide additional lots for those seeking a rural large lot parcel of property. We also found land use policy 5.1 has been met. The rural development of the subdivision is in keeping with the context of the surrounding neighborhood of large lots. And on to the matters of the variance request. So they are requesting a variance from cul-de-sacs, which was read, to exceed 900 feet in length. The proposed cul-de-sac length is approximately 1,100 feet. So staff has found condition A has been met. There are special conditions affecting the property. It is encumbered by wetlands on a majority of that, and the applicant states approximately 58% of the property is wetlands. This is why they've limited the road access to a north-south configuration, and that alignment also allows for grades to average roughly 6%, which is below the 10% maximum allowed by municipal code. So staff has found B has been met. The granting of this variance will not adversely affect public welfare. It'll provide a road to be built for the subdivision that both adequately serves the neighborhood and accommodates emergency response vehicles. Staff has found condition C has been met. It will not have effect of nullifying the intent and purpose of the subdivision regulations. The need for this variance is driven by the design, and takes account into the topography and natural features surrounding with wetlands and streams. Staff has found D has been met. Undue hardship would result from strict compliance with the subdivision regulations. Denial of this variance would affect the property, and strict compliance would further limit the development of an already limited property. And as the applicant states, the natural features of the land, they've incorporated that in the design, which would reducing the development potential and allowing an increase of approximately 200 additional feet of road, while allowing the remaining usable land to be developed. Generally, though, in this, none of the reviewing agencies had any comment or objection to the variance request or the plat. So therefore, staff recommends approval of the variance and the plat found in A and B on page 10, 11, and 12 of the staff report. The applicant is here, and I think he can pronounce the subdivision name correctly, and I'll let him do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions of staff from the board? Mr. Gould, do you have any questions of staff?
I have no questions.
Thank you so much. Will the petitioner please come forward and state and spell your name for the record? You have 10 minutes, and let us know if you wish to reserve any of your time.
Good evening, members of the Platting Board. My name is Tony Hoffman. That's Tonyhoffman. I work for the Boutte Company, and I'm representing the petitioner and landowner John Mailer on this action before you. With me tonight is Brandon Marcotte and Grant Matthews with Triad Engineering. They're very familiar with the property. First, I'd like to compliment staff in helping us prepare the package. Mr. Odell and the staff have prepared a good package and write-up and helped clarify some issues for us. The entitle that we're seeking tonight is approval of a tract plat that creates 6 tracts for development of house sites. We are also, as he mentioned, requesting approval of the variance from the requirement of a cul-de-sac to not exceed 900 feet. The cul-de-sac length, basically the road that's being dedicated is the entire length of the property, but that would exceed 900 feet, which would preclude us from being able to really develop a corridor to access the property to the south. So by allowing this variance, we're able to at least have right-of-way in place that will allow development of the property to the south. The property wetlands were mapped in spring of 2022 by Travis Peterson, and they changed from what had been previously mapped. We've seen this in other places just to the west on the hillside. And it's kind of an eye-opener when you start developing lots and looking at them and then get an active current mapping and it changes. So there are still adequate sites for septic and house sites. The septic testing was challenging, and Mr. Marcotte could speak to that, but we were able to get perkable sites for the septics. Finally, the last thing I'd like to bring up and mention is the upgrade and construction of Jamie Avenue from the west, or from the east at Carl Street over to our property is actually going to help with the overall road network, because eventually developing these properties is going to lead us over to Mountain Air and provide that secondary access everybody's been talking about. And it will help open up a lot of the vacant land that you see on the hillside. One of the biggest restrictions we have in development of property on the hillside is that secondary access, and we need it. So this is helping improve that stretch of the road, which is not improved to really any standard other than a driveway for the house that's there on the south side of the road. So with that, you have anything to add? I will reserve the rest of my time for any rebuttal or questions you may have.
Excellent. You have 6 minutes and 56 seconds. Do we have any questions of the petitioner from the board?
I don't have, my button's not popping. But, Jana, so walk me through just, I guess I'm kind of not very versed in developing on wetlands, and I always thought the Army Corps did have to get involved, but then I was reading the community engagement question and answer response, and somebody asked, has the Army Corps of Engineers come on the property or done a site visit? And somebody on your team responded, we're not aware of any. So can you just help me understand, like, is that part of the process or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
My understanding, I'm just a surveyor, but if you go to the National Wetland Inventory site, you will see, the wetlands that they have mapped on the hillside and everywhere else. And if you look at those, they were mostly determined by aerial photography and other things and it's a good guideline for the developers and even the municipality of Anchorage when they're doing long-range 10,000-foot planning for sites. But when you get down into development and trying to cut up lots, that's why we go and get an environmental company like Travis Peterson to go in and delineate the wetlands according to the Corps of Engineers standards and specifications. They do a report, they do their mapping, they do the holes, they do all this stuff, and they submit it to the Corps of Engineers, and ultimately, once they accept and approve it, it becomes part of that national inventory and is updated. So as everybody knows, the municipality of Anchorage is no longer the adjudicator of wetlands in Anchorage. So it has to go through the Corps now. And the Corps really doesn't evaluate them as A, B, C, and D anymore. They're different. So that's thrown a whole nother wrinkle. But nonetheless, we did have Travis Peterson come out on the site, and we're glad we did because it had changed a little bit. It also has changed on to the west in Shangri-La, and you'll be hearing about that next month. So we're glad we actually took that step to do it. It's a cost, but it helps give you a more accurate sense of where the wetlands are, and it helps you design house pads and building sites and roads. So, yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Did I get that right? More or less.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Gould, do you have any questions of the petitioner?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Then we will move on to hearing from public testimony. Is there anyone in the public wishing to testify on this matter?
Were we going to hear from
Oh,
the the engineer guys at all about the water testing?
that's entirely up to, so we'll backtrack and we will restart the clock.
Yeah, my name is Grant Matthews. That's M-A-T-H-E-W-S. I'm with Triad Engineering. And we did complete some septic testing over the summer and found permeable soils on all lots. Don't see any issues with getting septic systems to work on site. And we also did an analysis of wells in the surrounding area and found that water production is adequate. We don't anticipate there being an issue with getting water supply for the 6 lots. And as Tony mentioned, I mean, we're 6 lots and 1 tract here for 40 acres, so you'd normally think of it as kind of an underutilization of the property, but there are some constraints there with streams and wetlands, so we're utilizing it to the best way that we can figure it out with working within those constraints, which includes the cul-de-sac variance.
Excellent. Jana, does that answer your question?
This might be for staff, but I found 9A kind of interesting on the recommendations. And I'm fine with it. It just kind of said, this used to be a requirement of Title 21, but it's been removed. But I guess to the applicant, is 9A okay with you?
We've run into this comment in the past multiple times, and yeah, I mean, it would be our preference that it was removed, but it does say it admits that it's not a requirement, and it kind of leaves it open. It says that proposed subdivision with more than 5 lots should have an aquifer test. We found plenty of evidence without actually performing a costly test like that to not need it. So we would be okay leaving it, but I mean, it would be our preference to strike 9A because, as it admits, it's not a code requirement. It's kind of above and beyond what is currently required by Title 21 or Title 15.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions from staff? All right, then now we'll move on to public testimony. Thank you. Public testimony is now open. Is there anyone that wishes to come forward and testify? And we don't have anybody on the bridge. Thank you. Understood. All right, we have no public testimony, so public hearing is now closed. Oh, does the board have any questions? I'm sorry? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Please come forward and state your name. And are you with a community council, or are you speaking on behalf of yourself? Oh, you'll need to press there you go.
Oh, hi.
Okay, so just state your name and spell it, please.
Amy Neighbor, A-M-Y-N-E-I-B-A-U-R. I am a neighbor of the potential cul-de-sac.
Great, so you'll have 3 minutes to speak your question, your observations, actually. Go ahead, thank you. Oh, what was that, Tom? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I know nothing about the build. This is just a request, I guess. As far as the roadway was proposed and potential lighting for access, I'm assuming, is it going to be going towards Jamie or beyond Jamie? The intersection of Jamie. The intersection? Okay. So I guess in my my request would be no, regardless of benefit of roadway, I'm requesting no taxes or additional taxes be applied to the current landowners for the stated request for the desired subdivision indefinitely.
So your concern is taxes?
Correct, and I don't know if that's going to be an issue. Should it be? I feel that if they're wanting to build a subdivision, that they should absorb the taxes moving forward to benefit their subdivision.
Not sure how
As
to
there's
answer
nothing,
that question.
I don't feel like there's anything, things are working as such. If they're going to be adding additional roadways, lighting for their subdivision.
Okay.
I guess I'm questioning if that's going to be adding taxes.
Through the chair,
Yeah, I was
our
going
land.
to ask.
I'd like the opportunity to address the question, if you don't mind.
Please.
Just a little bit of education on how subdivision works. When an applicant comes to the planning board and asks for permission to do a development project, they bear all the costs. So the cost of the road work, the cost of clearing the land, and ultimately, as a result of the work that they do, any increase in taxes that come as a result of developing the property. So that burden will not be placed on you, it will be placed on the property owner.
Okay, moving forward with all of it? Wonderful, thank you.
Is that all?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. Do we have any other public testimony? Hearing and seeing none, the public testimony is closed. We will need 2 motions. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have a rebuttal? Would you like to, does the petitioner have a rebuttal? Use your time. All right. The petitioner has chosen not to use their rebuttal time. That being said, we will need 2 motions. One for the cul-de-sac variance and one for the plat for 24 months. It has been moved by Mr. Zach Young and seconded by Ryan Mormon. Mr. Young, would you state your motion, please?
I motion to approve the request of subdivision variance seeking relief for AMC 21.08.030F.6A, cul-de-sac length. I will be supporting this motion. I believe that it is the attempt of the developer to essentially access all of the lots, and the code requiring 900 feet of total space was not a good application for this particular case, and I think we should grant the variance because of that, and therefore I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Mr. Mormon, would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, I also support the variance from taking this cul-de-sac from 900 feet up to 1,100 feet in total length.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the board that would wish to speak to the motion or add findings? On the bridge?
Mr. Gould, do you have any comments?
I don't have any comments.
Thank you. If there is no further discussion, then I will read the motion. The motion is to approve the request for a subdivision variance seeking relief from AMC 210803 F6A cul-de-sac length. Please vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I vote to approve the motion.
Thank you.
That motion has passed. Thank you. We will need a second motion. For approval for 24 months. The motion has been moved by Ms. Shanna Weltzen and seconded by Mr. Ryan Moorman. Ms. Weltzen, would you care to state your motion?
Sure, thank you. I'll be supporting this motion. I move to
Well,
it.
We got to state what the motion is first.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna state this motion that I'm gonna vote for. Approval of the plat for 24 months, subject to the conditions 1 through 9. I'm sorry, 1 through 9. And then also with the plat notes found on page 12 of our packet, 10 A through D, and then also with the condition of number 11 to make drafting changes as described in 11A, little I, and little I2 on page 12 of our packet.
So to be clear, that does include 9A, correct?
That does include 9A.
Excellent. Mr. Moorman, okay, so now would you care to speak to your motion?
Sure. This development looks like it's addressing a really important need to get some more single-family housing kind of out in the rural areas, and I like that they're agreeable to putting in the intersection lighting because I think that will be useful in this area. I also did not see any negative testimony in the packet, and the public comment in the room was more of, not against the project, but more of just concerns of how it would affect her taxation, which I think was adequately addressed by staff. And it seemed that the reviewing agencies, by and large, were in support of this project. And it's going to be a challenging project, but it looks like they're kind of really thinking things through, and so I'll be in support of it.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Moorman, would you care to speak to your motion?
I would also like to motion to approve the subdivision of one tract of land into 6 lots and 1 new tract, approval for 24 months, subject to 1 through 9, along with plat note 10A through 10D and 11I and 11II.
Thank you, and would you care to speak to your motion? Your second, sorry.
I think based off a staff report and community testimony and the engineer report, I think this makes sense to turn this 40 acres into some great new lots.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would care to speak to the motion or add findings? Mr. Gould, do you care to speak to the motion or add findings?
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, please vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I vote for the motion.
Thank you.
The motion passes. Congratulations. With that, we will move on to the next case. The next case is S12699. Would staff please present the case?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request to subdivide 3 tracts into 5 tracts and with vacation of a 50-foot section line easement and a 10-foot T&E easement dedicated per plat 85-38. The proposed replat eliminates the need for the section line easement and existing T&E easement because access to the right-of-way from each tract will be provided and new utility easements will be dedicated through this action. This request is being made to facilitate future residential development within Girdwood by allowing for smaller parcels of land to be evaluated for development potential. As far as road and trail improvements and dedications, there is no proposed development within the platted area at this time, nor dedication of right-of-way within the platted area. As such, no improvements are being required, and all tracts except for Tract 1 directly abut dedicated right-of-way, and legal access to Tract 1 is provided via public use easement recorded by document. Further dedication of right-of-way and trails will be completed through future subdivisions of the proposed tracts. Existing trails such as the Iditarod National Historic Trail within the platted area will remain undisturbed. Any alteration or creation of both motorized and non-motorized facilities within the platted area will be completed through an analysis of proper road and trail alignment at the time of further subdivision. The petition site is located near the northern terminus of Hightower Road, in between Crow Creek Road and the Girdwood Airport. The property is currently undeveloped, and the planning staff has evaluated the vacation requests for the criteria that must be considered for any vacation of public right-of-way, dedication or section line easement. And in terms of vacation criteria number 1, we do believe that criteria is met. The statement provided by the applicant that the section line easement is surplus to municipal need indicates that the section line easement is very unlikely, is a very unlikely location for a street constructed to municipal standard due to topographic and wetland constraints. Additionally, the use of the section line easement for the development of a street is not shown nor indicated on any preceding municipal plan, specifically the 2040 Official Streets and Highways Plan and the 2001 Girdwood Commercial Areas and Transportation Master Plan. Planning Department concurs with that assessment. For approval criteria 2, we do believe that criteria has been met. The use of the section line easement for the construction of a street is not shown within the 2014 Official Streets and Highways Plan, nor is it indicated on the Girdwood Commercial Areas and Transportation Master Plan. And we do believe criteria number 3 has been met. The section line easement does lie along a half-mile grid. However, the alignment of this section line easement poses extreme difficulty to construct a road to current standards within it, given slopes and wetlands. The average slope along the easement is greater than 6%, and there are portions within the alignment that exceed 10%. These grades exceed allowances within the Municipal Design Criteria Manual, and the wetlands present within the easement were recently delineated in 2021 and should be avoided to preserve ecological function and likely unstable soils. For approval criteria number 4, that criteria does not apply to the section line easement since it does not lie along a quarter-mile grid. For criteria number 5, we do believe that is met. Each proposed tract, with the exception of Tract 1, will be provided legal and physical access to an abutting right-of-way which will adequately serve this subdivision. Tract 1 is provided access through a recorded public use easement, and further dedication of right-of-way for the development of interior streets will be necessary with future subdivision. The alignment of those streets will be determined through future analysis of the subject property once appropriate grades, soil stability, and wetland delineations have been confirmed. The vacation of the section line easement will not impact pedestrian or vehicular access to any property outside of this subdivision. For criteria 6, we do believe that criteria is met. The vacation will not result in any realignment of existing right-of-way and does not impact any existing traffic circulation. The subject property is undeveloped. An appropriate street alignment and right-of-way dedication will be determined at the time of further subdivision. Regarding the 10-foot T&E easement, petitioner is requesting to vacate a 10-foot T&E easement running north-south along the eastern boundary of existing Tract B Girdwood Elementary School subdivision. The vacation request has been reviewed and found to conform to the municipal vacation policy and ordinance. The underlying plat, Girdwood Elementary School subdivision, which is plat 85-38, was recorded on February 21st, 1985, and that placed a 10-foot T&E easement along the eastern boundary of Tract B. The proposed subdivision from 3 tracts into 5 tracts redraws property boundaries and alters the need and alignment of any necessary T&E easements. T&E easements are not considered right-of-way, and the municipality has no permitting or approval authority over the use of a utility-specific easement. Utility providers have reviewed the proposed subdivision and have expressed no objection to the request to vacate the 10-foot T&E easement, and to date there are no installed utilities within them. Additionally, utility providers will have the opportunity to review the proposed plat and request easements as necessary prior to submittal of the final plat. Therefore, staff believes that the 10-foot easement is in excess of municipal need and recommends approval of the vacation subject to conditions A, B, and C on pages 8 and 9 of the staff report. And I will just note for the record, we did have a late comment submittal from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors. One is a letter dated June 22nd, 2022. The other is resolution, Girdwood Board of Supervisors Resolution 2022-23 and Girdwood Board of Supervisors Resolution 2022-14. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Yo. Does the board have any questions of staff?
So, this is Jana. Through the chair, I just want to make sure I understand the process. It's coming to us, we would presumably vote on this, kind of chunking out these large pieces of land, and then it will go through a conditional use process through P&Z for further, and then they'll step into our shoes essentially and further plat out smaller lots and make any conditions that they deem reasonable at that time?
So through the chair, Heritage Land Bank is working with a developer to put together a residential development in this area. This tract plat will facilitate the furthering of that development. As of now, the developer does intend to take an additional entitlement or several additional entitlements to Planning and Zoning Commission for their review. But exactly what that end product is still being determined.
Okay. And then I was just kind of digging around and doing a little bit of research on this, and in the last minutes from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, they noted that they thought that this plating meeting was on November 8th. And I wonder, I mean, I would hope that they know it's tonight, but in their meetings, they tell their community that it's November 8th is this plating hearing. So it's not in your packet, I don't think, but I printed it out. Do you know if they knew that tonight's the meeting?
Through the chair, they were provided notification, as with all subdivisions that require a public hearing. We do notify the applicable community council of the date of the hearing, and the mailers do indicate the action before them. But the Girdwood Board of Supervisors was mailed a notice of this public hearing on October 10th of 2022. It was sent to the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, Post Office Box 390, Girdwood, Alaska 99587. And notice of public hearing date does indicate Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. McGillicuddy.
Not necessarily a question, more of a statement, just because at the last planning board meeting that we had, Connie Yoshimura from CY Investments was in front of us saying that we were to expect around 40 people, and so the room is not full with that, so I just wanted to make sure that. But you said they received a mailer, so, okay.
Mr. Gould, do you have any questions of staff?
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on the last question, just to make sure I understand. This action is to take this piece of property and, I guess, subdivide it into large chunks. But the final subdivision is going to happen later, and that's going to come in front of us at some future time. And so a lot of the questions that I'm seeing will be answered at that time. Is that correct?
Could staff answer that question, please?
Through the chair, that is correct. It is intended that these tracts will be further subdivided into smaller lots that will then be developed into residential properties.
And so all of these questions we're hearing about what's this going to look like and what's the main plan and what's the plan going to be and all those things, those will be answered with these future subdivisions.
So through the chair, it depends on exactly which development entitlement the applicant chooses to go with. As of now, the applicant is discussing going forward with a conditional use permit for a planned unit development. Planning and Zoning Commission would be the approving body for that entitlement, and the plat would go to Planning and Zoning Commission concurrently. Should the developer choose to pursue a fairly more standard residential development, then that would most likely go before the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
I had one more
Ms.
question.
McGillicuddy.
Yeah. Thank you, through the chair. So if the subdivision of the 3 tracts into 5 with vacations is approved tonight, then the land, I think I read this, I can't remember if it's in the packet or minutes, but the land, then the deeds will change from Heritage Land Bank to the LLC?
Through the chair, so that is between Heritage Land Bank and the developer, and exactly what, if any, land is going to be transferred and when. So that is entirely separate of this subdivision action before the planning board tonight. The land will remain in the hands of Heritage Land Bank until such time as it's transferred and approved by the Assembly.
So my understanding is that the municipality of Anchorage, the Heritage Land Bank, needs to be able to subdivide these lots individually so that they can be sold to the private developer post-haste.
Through the chair, I believe the applicant can speak to that.
Do we have any other questions from the planning board to the staff?
I guess this is the last one, and then we'll let the applicant go. But in the comments that we got on the table today, the resolution of support from the Girdwood Board of Supervisors for revision or revocation of the development agreement between Heritage Land Bank and CY Investments. Is there already a development agreement, or isn't this something that's in progress? Or maybe I'm misunderstanding, because I would think it would be in progress.
Through the chair, the applicant can speak to that.
Okay. Cool. I'll hold my question then for the applicant.
Shall we move forward? Oh, sorry. So, with that, Will the petitioner please come forward, state and spell your name for the record? You will have 10 minutes, and let us know if you're going to reserve any time afterwards.
Good evening, members of the Platting Board. My name is Tony Hoffman. I work with the Boutte Company, and I represent the petitioner and landowner, Heritage Land Bank, on the Holton Hills tract plat that we're talking about tonight. Again, I would like to compliment planning staff. This is a highly complex project. It's got a lot of moving pieces, a lot of community input, and they've done a wonderful job preparing the package and helping us navigate the different routes we could go with this. With me tonight is Brandon Marcotte with Triad Engineering, Grant Matthews with Triad Engineering, and representing HOB is Emma Gibney tonight. Additionally, we have Adam Trombley from City Hall is with us tonight. He helped put some of this deal and some of this project on the board and moving. So tonight, you're going to hear this a few times, the entitlement we're seeking is a tract plat. That's it. And it's going to create 3 tracts for future development. Now, included in the application is the vacation of the 50-foot section line easement and the adjacent 10-foot utility easement that was platted in 1985. Once that plat is recorded, then the property transfer could happen from Heritage Land Bank to a developer, or however that works. And I'm going to let Mr. Trombley speak to that here in a minute about how the transfer is going to work. Now, the section line easement is kind of a long-range issue, but we also submitted a plat to Department of Natural Resources in May. The state process for vacating a section line easement and their rights in it is a much longer lead item. We have to do that because they still own rights as a road easement in that. So since they created it, they still basically own it. It stays with the property. We have to vacate it through a DNR plat. So I do want to point out that this section line easement was actually already submitted to DNR in 2010 or 2008, and it was actually approved in the same situation, in the same configuration that you see here. They went through the whole public process, the same scenario, and they approved it. So it's already been looked at by DNR and the public. And basically, there's been no new construction changes along Crow Creek Road, or, Hightower's been upgraded, but it was in existence then too. So the tract plat that you're looking at tonight is really a simple configuration of the three tracts for future development, and then the remaining large pieces that are what we call remnant tracts. All the property that's being subdivided is now owned by Heritage Land Bank. Now, those new tracts that we're creating, 1, 2, and 3, will be used to create, in a different process, the individual lots that will ultimately make up the Holton Hills development. You're going to see that, as Ryan mentioned, in some other form, maybe a conventional plat or subdivision plat, or maybe a PUD and a conditional use application that would go to a planning and zoning. There's going to be another full-blown public hearing and process with all the same community involvement, all the same pieces. It's going to come back before the public, and that's where, the details of the development and construction are going to be really hashed out and thought out. We haven't sat down and finalized a lot layout yet, but we're close. But it makes no sense for a developer to move all the way into that until we pull down these 3 tracts and have them in hand, and a legal tract to build into. Because right now you're just looking at some huge pieces of land, and there's just too many moving parts. And this is a very common scenario for large developments. They'll cut out tracts and phase them, but ultimately you have to take down those first tracts to secure financing, and there's any number of different things. So that's why we're doing this. No building permits, no home construction will take place after this tract plat until a further subdivision is put in place. That's really important. Regarding the environmental and other physical features, the wetlands and streams were mapped earlier this year. They're shown on the plat. There's a lot of physical constraints on the property. The state of Alaska DNR people came out, the water people came out and met us. We surveyed the ordinary high water along Glacier Creek, which is a moving line, and it's kind of hard to define. The reason we did this is because the original state patent actually creates a 200-foot setback from that ordinary high water line, and it really impacts the development, so we had to know exactly where it is. Gathering all this field information is, really just the first step, and it's the first step in developing the track layout, and then we'll go further into it as we move into subdivision lot layout. So really that's all I have to say. I think Mr. Trombley may have something to add tonight about the land transfer and how that development agreement works. So he's part of the applicant, so you can just keep that clock running.
Mr. Trombley, would you care to state your name and spell for the record, please?
Adam Trombley, Trombley, Mayor Bronch's Chief of Staff. I was formerly Executive Director of Community Development, which is how I was involved in this project. I'm just here to answer questions specifically to the development agreement or how the land transfer process works.
So does that end your presentation?
Yes, sir, it does.
You'll have 4 minutes. Do you wish to reserve the rest of your time?
Yes, sir, I do.
Excellent. Do we have any questions of the petitioner from the board?
I do.
Ms. Welson.
Thank you, Mr. Trombley. So the resolution from the Gerwood Board of Supervisors, they mentioned, it's a resolution of support to revise or revoke the development agreement between Heritage Land Bank and CY Investments. And from what I'm hearing, it seems like that agreement isn't done yet. Is that correct, or?
Through the chair, no, ma'am, that is not correct. That development agreement was signed many months ago, and it's in the process of being executed.
In the process of being executed, or is it?
No, it is signed, but we are following the development agreement as we move through this process.
Okay. And is that something that we need that in our packet because we're not dealing with the development? Okay. Thank you. That was the question I had.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions of the petitioner? Mr. Gould?
No questions.
Thank you so much. Fair enough. We will move on to public testimony. So, public testimony is now open. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to come forward and testify on this case? Is there anyone on the bridge line? Very well. The public testimony is closed. We will need 3 motions. Oh, sorry. Rebuttal?
No, thank you. We're done with our presentation.
Thank you so much. All right. So we will need 3 motions. 1 for the 50-foot vacation, 1 for the 10-foot vacation, and 1 for the plat for 24 months. The motion has been moved by Mr. Ryan Moorman and seconded by Mr. Zach Young. Mr. Moorman, would you care to state your motion?
Through the chair, yes. Motion to approve the request for vacation of a 50-foot section line easement. I will speak to that as in agreeing with the staff report and also sometimes the difficulties in developing these tracks.
Mr. Young, would you care to speak to your motion?
I believe that this section line, as was originally drawn, does not conform to the current topography of the land, and it will be much more suitable for this to be vacated for the development of the land.
Does anybody else on the board, wish to speak to the motion or add findings?
I guess
Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to just speak to the motion. I find it just a little bit concerning that last meeting we had the developer address the quasi-judicial board about an item that was already scheduled for consideration, and I'm finding that a little bit. I think it does violate the judicial function that we sit in to be addressed by a petitioner on a quasi-judicial matter. But that said, I find it concerning that she said to expect 40 people, and then in the Girdwood Board of Supervisor minutes, they've got the date wrong for this meeting. So, I'm just stating that I'm going to support the motion because I think technically it's correct. I just find it a little bit concerning, the conflicting, telling us we're going to have 40 people, seeing the incorrect date in the minutes from the Board of Supervisors. That just gives me, I'm a big public process person, and that just gives me a little bit of pause. I do understand from the staff and the developer, or from the staff and the petitioner, that there's going to be more bites at this apple, and there's going to be more times for the community to engage. So that gives me a little bit of comfort in that, but it doesn't sit right with me that we had the developer address us directly on a quasi-judicial matter, say there's going to be 40 people show up, and then I see the wrong date in the Board of Supervisors minutes. So I will be supporting the motion, though.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? All right, then. I will state the motion for the record. We have a motion on the floor in case S1266699 to approve the request for a vacation for a 50-foot section line easement. Please vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote? Tom, are you there?
I vote to approve the motion.
Thank you.
The motion passed. All right, so we need a second motion. For a 10-foot vacation. We'll need a second. We have a motion on the floor from Mr. Zach Young and seconded by Mr. Ryan Moorman. Mr. Young, would you care to state your motion?
I motion to approve the request for a vacation of a 10-foot telephone electric. I will be supporting this motion for reasons already stated.
Excellent. Mr. Moorman, would you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, I also motion to approve the request for vacation of a 10-foot telephone and electric easement.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion or add findings? Hearing and seeing none, no further discussion. The motion on the floor in case S12699 is the motion to approve the request for a vacation of a 10-foot telephone and electric easement. Please vote.
Mr. Gould, how do you vote?
I vote to approve the motion.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, that motion has passed. So now we will need a third motion for the plat to approve the plat for 24 months. We have the motion moved by Zach Young and seconded by Mr. Ryan Moorman. Mr. Young, would you care to state your motion?
I motion to approve the subdivision for 24 months of 3 tracts of land into 5 tracts of land. I will be supporting this motion. I believe that there is a rather severe housing crisis within the Girdwood area, especially when it comes to middle and low income areas. Essentially, they have been pushed out of the working class. I think that an additional 200 or so units will allow for more middle-income housing within the area, which is an essential need. Girdwood really does not have much more to expand, and it makes sense that the municipality would decide to subdivide and sell that off to a developer.
Thank you. Mr. Moorman, would you care to speak to the motion?
Yes, I also motion to approve the subdivision for 24 months of the 3 tracts of land into 5 tracts. I did spend some time reading the Girdwood area plan earlier this week, and I'll also state that this kind of development is a unique, development for Girdwood, and Girdwood, having lived here for quite some time, really needs more development, and that's what I have to say on that.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the motion or add findings?
Through the chair.
Ms. Wilson.
Through the chair, I'll just reiterate my comments, or not reiterate them, but just echo my comments that I made on motion 1 regarding the previous meeting we had. And then I do hope that there is an earnest and genuine effort to, engage with the community, focus on, the RFP stated affordable housing, and it seems like that's not in the plan so far. So I really hope, since the plans aren't done yet, that kind of housing for long-term residents that are, affordable housing in a meaningful way are addressed, so that the community, isn't gutted of the ability to house workers that run these establishments that we all enjoy. So that's just, my 2 cents that's not applicable to this action. But I wanted to put that on the record.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Gould, do you have any comment? Would you like to speak to the motion or add findings?
I do have a comment. I'm very concerned about the apparent lack of community involvement, as indicated by the Board of Supervisors, and I would encourage the developer to make every effort to engage the community. There appears to be a lot of opinions one way or the other, and as we've heard tonight, that there will be another opportunity for the community to provide input as the developer goes forward. But yet there's still, I think, a lot of community input that is going to happen, and I'm concerned that we haven't heard that yet. Otherwise, I support the motion.
Excellent, thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else on the board that would care to speak to the motion or add findings? Hearing and seeing none, I will restate the motion and I will ask for a vote. In case S12699, we have a motion on the floor to approve the subdivision for 24 months of 3 tracts of land into 5 tracts. Please vote.
Mr. Gould?
I vote to approve the motion.
Thank you.
That motion has passed. All right. Do we have any board member comments? All right. Our next item on the agenda is on adjournment. May we have a motion to adjourn? It has been moved by Ms. McGillivray and seconded by Mr. Young that we adjourn. If no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.